The Vancouver injured Canucks. I mean, like, listen, right now, whether a player is seriously injured or not, it is getting a little frankly outrageous. I mean, it's kind of the situation where are they having a difficult or mediocre season, or is just their entire roster injured, right? Like, they've had some decent players and some key players get injured, and honestly, it's just a really difficult situation right now, and it's almost like everything that has gone bad in terms of the injury situation has just gone bad. It's Vancouver Canucks are in a really big pickle in terms of injuries, because we had Brock Besser in the first period get this really weird puck to about the waist area. So we're going to be talking about that, plus trade rumors that are really, really interesting around the Vancouver Canucks. But welcome back to Pixel Plus Hockey. If you could make sure to hit that subscribe button, it would be so greatly appreciated. And thank you so much to those that are already supporting me as well. It is very humbling. And honestly, it actually makes sense for the Vancouver Canucks to get some good injury news for a little bit, because it's just been horrible after horrible after horrible injury news for this team, and it does not look like Brock Besser is going to miss much time, which is just fantastic news. Here we have a very interesting quote. Post-game, head coach Adam Foote said that Besser should be back next game. Canucks Army Irfan Jafar confirmed on last night's episode of Rick and Wide Vancouver, saying that Besser will indeed be good to go in his home state of Minnesota take on the Wild on Saturday night. Besser is up to 4 goals and 2 assists through 10 games so far this season. Given all the injuries the Canucks are dealing with, losing Besser would have been a big blow for the team, close quote. So yes, again, Besser's actually performing like pretty reasonably well. The Vancouver Canucks need all the offense that they can get. I mean, Kiefer Sherwood can't score all your goals. By the way, Kiefer Sherwood has just been unbelievable, although his shooting percentage is probably pretty high. He's not going to score that many goals, but just a shout out to him. He has been an absolute beast for the Canucks. I mean, right now, my man is on pace for like 72 goals, 9 goals in 12 games. So this is just animalistic numbers. He is having a fantastic season, and he's really picking up for other players that aren't necessarily pulling their weight. So there are a number of players that aren't doing much, but man, Sherwood, geez, Thatcher Demko has been really, really good this season. I've loved his game, so that contract is looking good so far for Demko. Now, I want to talk about more trade rumors around the Canucks, because here's the thing: as the injuries pile up, you are going to have to make a move, okay? You can't, even if it's just a depth move, even if it's just like a winger center that can play, some level of center, some level of wing, something depth. Like Lucas Reichel was a smart move for them. They didn't really give up much, and they got more, NHL caliber talent. You need to do something here. And there are many centers that the Vancouver Canucks be looking for. We have really interesting quotes, and here it is. Boston is interesting. Casey Middlestad is out there again. Pavel Zacha was a player that they explored and took calls on last season from the Canucks' perspective. Those are 2 players that would appeal, Pagnotta said on Vancouver's center help. The quote continues. He added, there are players they are exploring on, and I would imagine that Boston would be a club that Alvin and President Jim Rutherford are going to at least poke on to see what price tag they would be for either of those players, close quote. So when it comes to both of those players, we're going to be talking about more trade rumors after this, but when it comes to those players, I'm not a huge Casey Middlestat guy. I really, you honestly might as well just play Lucas Reichel at center. I just really am not a huge fan of his. I'm not a huge fan of Lucas Reichel at center either. I like the bet, but Pavel Zacha is the guy that I would be exploring over all of these players, in my opinion anyway. I think that he's a proper center. And here we have the brand new quote from NHL Rumor Report from Cam Robinson regarding Canucks center search. One player that they did mention to me a couple of times is Oskar Sundqvist in St. Louis, close quote. So that is a lot more interesting, because when we talk about Oskar Sundqvist, certainly not a top 6 center. So essentially what I'm thinking here is that the Canucks are looking for a lesser center, Because honestly, let's be real right now. Pavel Zacha is probably the best of all of these centers. I would say I think he's actually even better than Nazem Kadri. Like that's what I would prefer Zacha over all of them. But obviously they're scouring the market because they're saying, can we even get a bottom six type center, play him in the top six kind of thing, and see how he can produce? Because when we talk about Oscar Sundqvist, he's kind of been injured a lot in his career. He's 71 games, 67 games, 15, maybe 70 games. He hasn't really necessarily been a consistent top six producer by any means. He has 4 points in 5 games, so in terms of offensive production, he's been fine. He has 20 points in 67 games last year. Not bad, but by no means is this a top six producer, right? You have to be looking for a little bit more than this, but again, what they're looking at here is that the prices are probably just really, really high for the other top six centers that they want to acquire. To be fair to Sundqvist, though, he actually does play a decent amount of minutes, about 14 minutes time on ice. I would say probably about a third or fourth line tweener. Perhaps he could be a good stopgap, because this is probably what the Canucks are thinking. With Philip Hedl out, what they're thinking to themselves is, if we can get a good stopgap that can at least play some minutes just to, help us until we get our injuries issues straight, it might not be that bad of a situation, right? It might not be that bad of a situation because you are in a real pickle with injuries, and you have to do something here, in my opinion. Like, I understand you don't want to make a silly move, but you can't have this lack of just depth in your roster with all of these players injured. The good thing about this player is, though, and one thing that I like, is he is a big and physical player, I would say. Like, he actually can use his size a little bit. He's impressively physical. He can score a little bit, so he's all around a pretty damn good player in that regard. And honestly, this is actually even more impressive when you have a player that has had some injuries like Sundqvist, who has had some pretty decent injuries in his career. A player like him being so physical, to me, is really impressive, because that's going to scare you after a while. If you get some serious injuries in the NHL, man, it can scare you and being like, man, the next injury could end my career, right? And a guy that goes in there says, no, actually, I'm going to be physical anyway. Like, I got a lot of respect for guys like that. So I will do question of the video. What center do you want the Canucks to get? For me, I've said actually, I thought they were going to get Marco Rossi. I actually thought Marco Rossi was a really good option for them. But that didn't happen, obviously. They did offer a first-round pick. God, I thought Marco Rossi would have been perfect for them. Elias Pettersson, Rossi down the middle, Philip Hedl in a third slot like he should be. That's a little bit better to me. I like that quite a bit. But right now, for the centers that are available, for me, it's Pavel Zacha. I think Pavel Zacha is the best out of any of this. He's better than Kadri. He's younger. He can produce offensively. That's a center I'm going to be looking for. From Oscar Sundqvist, I would be okay with that, but I would not give up a lot for that player. I would not give up a lot for him at all, in my opinion. Anyways, guys, I'm going to leave this video here. If you could make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it, guys, and make sure to have a great day. Goodbye, guys.